Yesterday on a podcast interview, the interviewer was sharing that he does a lot of boredom eating at night. And we got to talking about what can we do? What can you do to prevent eating when you're not hungry? And I'm going to share something with you now. I didn't share on the podcast, but it's something I'm going to be sharing at my upcoming retreat. Welcome, I'm Sheri Traxler with Nourish Life, author of Go Forward, 28 Days to Eat, Move, and Enjoy Life, God's Way. We're going to talk about something interesting, and I've never heard anybody talk about this before. I call it pleasure stacking. It stemmed from when I noticed it first several years ago, whenever I was wanting to eat when not hungry, or maybe I was just a little hungry, and I would get a massage, and I would notice the hunger left. And this came back to me recently. I was outside, I think it was after a rain, and I was noticing the smell, and just it was the pleasure of that was permeating me. And all thoughts of, oh, I want to munch on this or munch on that if I'm not hungry, all left. And I realized, why is it that we consider the only major, massive form of pleasure as food? Why is it that that is our go-to? Why is it your go-to for pleasure and then not deriving pleasure from all these other things? Because if you are saturated in pleasure with all of your senses and your life is full, you are much less likely to eat when you're not hungry because life is full, therefore you're not craving things. So here is what I mean by pleasure stacking. If you only have one pleasure in your life, and that's food, you're going to fill that up to fulfill your need for pleasure. And God gives us pleasure with no sorrow added. If we have way too much of one thing, we're going to get out of balance. So you may have food as one pleasure, but you also need to have a pleasure that involves what you see, a pleasure that involves what you hear, a pleasure that involves something else that you see, another pleasure that involves relationships, talking with a friend, another pleasure that involves something that you wear, something that you feel on your skin, another pleasure that involves something exciting, something fun to do, another pleasure that's maybe travel and experience, another pleasure that you are going and trying something new and challenging yourself, maybe learning something new, expanding your mind. Another pleasure that is something that you smell. Suddenly now, food is only one of the pleasures that fills your life, not the only thing. One of the activities that I'm going to have the participants in the Break Free Retreat do, that I'm going to challenge you with right now, is make a list of at least 10 pleasures that you can enjoy over the next week. So 10 in 7 days. And I don't mean just things like, but it can mean things like getting yourself flowers and enjoying that. Or if you enjoy smells, essential oils. Think in terms first of senses. What do you like to see? And when you see that, you just absorb it. It brings you pleasure. What do you like to smell? What do you like to listen to that brings you pleasure? What do you like to feel? Is there, maybe there's some lotion you like. Two of my favorite pleasures with work. One is having pictures from favorite trips, just scroll through on the computer. And the other is some sand from a favorite beach trip that I get to play with while I'm working. But maybe for you, it is something that engages all of your senses. Maybe it's watching an MMA fight. I've got some buddies that really brings them pleasure to watch guys knock other guys out. I don't personally get that, but if that's what brings you pleasure, go for it. Maybe it's like when I went out after a rain and smelled that and the freshness of the air, or maybe it's the sun on your skin, the warmth of that you really enjoy. The key is that we don't pass these pleasures by, that we don't just take them for granted, that we're not mindful of them. Even if it's something like drinking a glass of water and sensing the temperature and the feel of that and how your body feels after that. It's about experiencing those pleasures, allowing yourself to experience all of your senses, being mindful of them, and intentionally adding them to your life. So again, my challenge to you is 10. Make a list of 10 pleasures, stack those pleasures, and then experience them over the next week. Simple assignment, but I promise you it will help fill your life with pleasure so you're not as tempted to fill your life with food as the only pleasure. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for taking this challenge. Let me know what's on your list and when you've completed it. Remember to subscribe, click that notification bell, and until next time, find your path and fulfill your potential.